It's time now to know what's on the front pages of the newspapers, and I have with me in the studio journalist Dare Odufowokan. Good morning.
Good morning.
And via Zoom we have IfyOnyegbule joining us. Ify, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica and Dari. Good to be with you.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
All right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Daily Times. Ban on Twitter to be lifted soon. Ban on Twitter to be lifted soon. Federal government speaking there. We move to the first newspaper. Insecurity. Southern governors meet in Enugu today. Southern governors meet in Enugu today. You find details of the story on the pages of the first newspaper. To this Nigeria newspaper, insecurity in Nigeria, 1 million children shun school, says UNICEF. 1 million children shun school, says UNICEF. That's quite a worrying development coming there. All right, we move to the Nation newspaper. UNICEF attacks scare 1 million kids from schools. Parents keep children away in fear of abduction. We'll look at the story in due course of our newspaper review. All right, to the front page of the Daily Sun now. Khan expresses worries over migration of Boko Haram to Kaduna, says it's dangerous, bad omen. Khan, that's the Christian Association of Nigeria, expresses worries over migration of Boko Haram to Kaduna, says it's dangerous, bad omen. To the Blueprint newspaper now, Gbajabiamila, miscreants, criminals in Southwest is not different from Boko Haram ISWAP. Gbajabiamila, miscreants, criminals in Southwest is not different from Boko Haram. The Guardian newspaper now, will judge you by the company you keep. Federal government warns Southwest agitators. Will judge you by the company you keep. Federal government warns Southwest agitators. To the Daily Independent now. Yoruba Nation agitators bond with IPOB worries presidency. Yoruba Nation agitators bond with IPOB worries presidency. Separationists leading nation to destruction. Gbajabiamila says reps to prioritize effort at firming security architecture. To the Leadership newspaper, 45 days to PDP convention. North, Southeast I presidential ticket. Southwest seeks party chairmanship. Details on the pages of the Leadership newspaper. To the Business Day now. Rising GDP growth, slowing inflation unlikely to pave the way for rate cut. Rising GDP growth, slowing inflation unlikely to pave the way for rate cut. Find details on the pages of the Business Day. To the National economy, Nigeria risks entering debt trap as profile hits 35.46 trillion naira. Nigeria risks entering debt trap as profile hits 35.46 trillion naira. The Punch newspaper now. National Assembly defends Buhari's $4.9 billion loan plan. APC-PDP clash over debt. All countries engage in deficit financing. We are still within borrowing limit. Senate speaking there. Buhari's loan for budget financing, not for looting, as done by PDP, says ruling party. APC borrowing to finance corrupt lifestyles of its leaders and their cronies, alleges PDP. All right. Let's move now to the Tribune newspaper. Federal government states FCT owed 35.5 trillion naira by June 2021, working to formalize 10 trillion naira CBN overdraft. Economic realities forced us into borrowing to pay salaries at Keredolu. External borrowings for benefits of Nigerians, APC, replies PDP. To the Daily Trust newspaper, Naira's free fall continues as Nigerians rush to hold dollars. $1 sales at 565 naira. Government officials, elites in rush for forex. Citizens up for foreign goods at all cost. Companies spend $55 billion on foreign consultants, workers. Details on the pages of the Daily Trust newspaper. To the Vanguard newspaper, Nigeria now owing 35.5 trillion naira. Local debt stands at 21 trillion. Federal government owes 29.5 trillion, states owe 6 trillion naira. World Bank Group, AFDB Group dominate creditors list. Bilateral creditors include China, France, Japan, Germany, India. To this day newspaper, Salami, with debt service to revenue at 98%, Nigeria's borrowing unsustainable, asks federal government to sell off 900 billion naira debt assets to enhance fiscal position. Nigeria's public debt grows to 35 trillion naira, says DMO, that's the Debt Management Office speaking. To the Nigerian News Direct, revenue shortfall, federal government writes 36 state governors demands recovery of over 4 years stamp duties backlog. All right. Right, let's begin this way, Ify. This issue of borrowing. We remember that the president sent a letter to the National Assembly asking that it intends we borrow about $4 trillion, $4 trillion, yes, and that is coming as there's been a lot of reactions generated as regards to that, and we see that the National Assembly is defending the federal government's borrowing, saying that because of the budget deficit. And then the PDP and APC has been on a war of words with regards to this money is being requested by the government. $4.9 billion, I beg your pardon. So I'd like to get your reaction to this development, bearing in mind that our debt profile has now risen to over 35 trillion naira as we speak, Ify.
You've said it all, Veronica, because so much has been talked about it. For us to keep talking about it just seems like we're flogging a dead horse as it is. I was surprised when I saw it, and I was wondering, all the monies that have been borrowed, what exactly have they used it for? Is it not possible for government to think about cutting its spending instead of going borrowing all of the time? You just talked about over $4 billion. You didn't even talk about the euros that they're also going to borrow. And you're asking yourself the question, all the monies that you have borrowed as a country, as a government, what exactly have you used it for? I saw reports where the president was giving his scorecard about how much he had spent, giving out to citizens when you talk about cash transfers. And you're asking, is that what it is that the citizens need at this time? Whatever happened to creating a conducive environment, all the monies that you have borrowed, talking about good roads, talking about power, talking about a health sector that actually works. Look at the unemployment sector in Nigeria. You have graduates roaming the streets of Nigeria looking for jobs that are not there. The ones that have been able to create something for themselves to earn that honest living, you find that they get to stifle it because there is no power. How do you run a business without power as it is? So when we talk about this issue of the government going to ask that he wants to borrow, he needs permission to borrow X amount of money, I think it's laughable, because as I see it, Nigeria is just going neck down into debt. And you're asking yourself the question, however, how are we going to pay what it is that government keeps borrowing? For me, I think it's just a wrong step in the wrong direction, and I just hope they see it that way.
Dari.
When it comes to the issue of government having to borrow, I see it as a fiscal policy thing, and one needs to understand it before you either knock or applaud it. I won't have a problem with government borrowing, because before government will come out to tell you we have to borrow, they must have done their background checks. It simply means we don't have money to run the economy. We don't have money to run the budget. What options do we have? If we don't borrow, we are neck deep in infrastructural decay. If we borrow, we stand a chance of solving the issue of infrastructure.
And she asked a question. What have we achieved with all of the borrowings so far?
It is the same question we've been having. If we have achieved something, with all the borrowings, we won't be here talking about having to borrow. They borrowed in the past. We didn't see result. Are we now going to say, since they are telling us they still have to borrow, they shouldn't borrow and we should be stagnant? My answer is no. My concern is not usually with the issue of borrowing. It is usually what we do with what we borrow. I think we should begin to pay attention to that specifically. You have come to tell us we have elected National Assembly members elected by us to represent us. They looked at the governor and the president's demand. They said, okay, we are okay in it on our behalf. Now, we cannot do anything to stop that because we gave our sovereignty to these people. Having gotten to that point, my own interest is in what is to be borrowed. What do you intend to do with it? This is where I have issues with the National Assembly. Instead of just telling us we okayed the president's demand, we should be seeing a breakdown of what the presidency told you they need the money for, how they intend to spend it, tie the loans. You see why we have issues of we don't see results of the loans. We don't tie it to anything. Whatever they gave to the National Assembly that made the National Assembly said this is okay, they should give it to us. We are the watchdog. The entire public should be able to know so amount is being borrowed because we need it to do this particular thing.
Perhaps the people need to start demanding accountability.
Accountability, not vague accountability, not general accountability, particular accountability. You said you were going to use social amount of the money borrowed to fix Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That money is gone. Is the road fixed? The answer tells us
no.
Whatever
it is.
It is. The one you said you spent to complete the rail project. The money is gone. Is the project completed? We begin. It is only when we have a breakdown of. Don't come and tell us presidency want to borrow social amount. We said it's okay. What? Don't give us a general. Break it down. What we need to, and don't tell us you want to borrow to pay wages, to pay bills, for what are called sundry expenses. We won't be able to tie anything to that. The moment we begin to spend more than we can earn in those sectors, we're already in trouble. If we fix infrastructure, if we fix light, if we fix rail, those are things that will boost our economy. And it is expected that we'll get returns. Then the business environment is better. Tax returns are expected to be shored up. And then we could find a way of paying. Finally, on this issue of borrowing, how do we intend to pay back?
That's the question.
Something nobody discusses.
Yes.
We keep saying
we use 80% on debt servicing, 80% of.
And then if you are using 80% of debt servicing and want to borrow more, mean we use more. You begin to find these lacunas that are actually the problem, not the fact that we borrow. We are not the only nation borrowing.
Absolutely.
But what do we do with our own? How accountable are we with what we borrow? And what are the programs we have on ground to pay back? If we sort all these problems, anytime we borrow and we're able to pay, and we see what the money is used for by that particular government, nobody is going to complain. But we just see borrowed monies disappearing. Projects still uncompleted. Policies dangling in no particular direction. And the next thing we hear again is, we need to borrow more. These are the things I frown at, not the borrowing per se. All
right. Let's move on now to another issue on the front page of the Nation newspaper, talking about UNICEF attacks scare 1 million kids from schools. And there's the statistics from UNICEF for 2021 saying that 37 million kids expected back, 20 attacks on schools. 1,436 pupils abducted, 16 children dead, 200 missing, and the states affected, according to their reporters, Zamfara, Katsina, Niger, Kaduna, parents are keeping their children away in fear of abduction. And I wonder how this development is to you, how worrisome it is if where parents have to keep their children out of school. We already have a burden of out-of-school children, and now for fear of attacks, over 1 million children have not gone to school or have refused to go to school. Their parents are afraid. I mean, what are the implications that you see, Ify?
I don't want to be someone who says, look, Nigeria is doomed as it is. But think about it. 1 million children have been scared out of school. Their parents have to keep them at home. And I don't blame these parents anyway. I think Nigeria needs to begin to look the way of homeschooling as it is. Because all the states that you have mentioned now, you see that they are in the north. What exactly is going on there? Remember, there was a statistics talking about ordinarily over 13 million children out of school. I shared the video at some point where you see those kids who go about begging. And I was asking the question, what exactly are the governors doing in the north? How do they go to sleep in the first instance when you have children like that who should be in school, but they are on the streets begging, and no one has seen the need to actually find a way to put them in school? Now, the unrest, the insecurity that's pervading the north is something that's keeping these children also out of school. And you don't blame the parents for taking their children, because you find that people come to a school, they take children in hundreds, in their hundreds as it is, and they take these children away. Nothing happens. These children go through so much horror in the hands of the people they want to call bandits, instead of calling them exactly what it is that they are. Then you release the children at some point. They've gone through all whatnot. They've seen what it is they're not supposed to see at their ages. And you expect the parents to keep them in school. I feel so bad that this is exactly what is happening. Because those who think they're in the south, or those who think they're in the east, when you talk about the south, either the west or the east, you think your children are in school. They will meet someday with these children who are out of school, and you can imagine what it's going to be. It is sad, and I'm thinking that government truly needs to wake up. We just finished talking about borrowing. I'm saying that if you fix the country, if there is security, if there is power, if there are good roads, if people are okay, you get to pay them their salaries, no matter how small it is. I'm telling you, Nigerians are very resilient people. They'll find a way around it. But if you're saying to me that you're going to do you're going to do C and D instead of dealing with A and B first, I think we're just going round in circles, and we'll continue to be exactly where we are. We think we're moving. We're not moving until government deals exactly with the issues staring her in the face. 1 million children trying to stay home because their parents are scared is not something that we should be talking about on national TV or celebrating as it is. But you have these governors, they're not thinking about it. When they have the FEC meeting, what are they talking about? They need to begin to tell us how they are going to deal with this, and when they are going to actually deal with it.
All right, let's bring the conversation to the studio. Dare, this is quite a number that is scary and worrisome. And when you hear 13 million children out of school, like she pointed out, and now we have 1 million who are scared out of school as a result of insecurities. And I'm wondering if these numbers really bother us. We talk about this almost on a regular basis. Let me leave it at that. Yet we are still seeing the number on the rise. She said, she mentioned something that, how do their governors even go to sleep? And, you know, despite hearing these figures, what are they discussing? What do they talk about when they have these meetings? Perhaps you know.
Well, if you are able to sleep when 13 million is out of school, what would disturb your sleep with just 1 million?
Just
1 million compared to 13 million. 13 million out of school over the years. Then we have an issue of 1 million people at home because their parents are scared. Those who watched 13 million stay out of school over the years would, to me, not be bothered about the 1 million.
But it's not right. Because that mandate was given to them.
Even if there's 100 students or 10, it is not right. But it is about the attitude of leadership to things that concerns the people. Come, let us face the facts. Why are those 1 million home now? It is because the insecurity is just the immediate cause. The root cause is actually because those 13 million didn't go to school. The 1 million at home today actually because the 30 million didn't go to school. Part of those 30 million became terrorists. Part of those 30 million became Boko Haram members. Part of those 30 million are those you are today calling bandits. They are the people terrorizing this particular region because they didn't go to school. Now, why the 1 million were in school? The parents of the 1 million, maybe elites, felt that's the problem of those who are out of school. But today,
it's now their problem.
Is it not that problem? Is it? I don't look at issues on the face value. I don't just want to criticize because we all have to find somebody to blame. No. When issues have root causes, attack the root causes, not just the surface.
So we left it for too long.
We left it for too long. Not only that, some people now stood up one day and said, book is haram. Boko Haram. Book is haram, meaning Western education is a sin. And we watched them. You want to tell me it is bandits that kept the 1 million at home? I will tell you no, it is Boko Haram. Because bandits are extensions of Boko Haram. I don't see bandits in the north. I see terrorists. I keep saying it. Right. I will no longer call them bandits. They are terrorists. People who take life, people who disrupt the economy, people who steal, people who collect ransoms, people who make communities pay them for security, people who dare national army, people who dare the government of a sovereign state, and you want me to keep using the subtle word carved out for them, bandits. I won't be part of that. Now what I'm saying is Boko Haram decided that there will be no schooling in the north. And that is what we are saying. And that is what we are saying now. Thank you. That is what we are saying now. They are having their way by the day. Look at somebody like Governor N35 of Kaduna. He came out and said, look, we will not submit this state to criminals. We will fight and ensure that our children are in school. But today, he is helpless. So if the governors had stood up in one voice saying that they would not allow this, it could have been nipped in the bud. I don't agree. I'm asking. I don't agree that it could have been nipped because the governors don't control ordinary police. They can't even control the police. I don't just want to blame somebody. I want to be realistic about my analysis. What could the governor have done? If Buhari stood up to, El-Rufai stood up, I give him kudos. He even exemplified by putting his own child in public school. But he came out to tell us, look, I had to pull him out. He was being targeted for kidnapping. You understand? But he also told us on many occasions how he had security reports, but he could not make the police or the army move because he's not the commander-in-chief. He's not the IG of police. And we have all these things centralized. The police is centralized, the army is centralized, the intelligence forces centralized. So the governor will have to wait until others come for his suggestions to be carried out. So when we talk about how they have failed to handle this, I would rather say it's just in the area of what they do with their security votes. All of them are guilty as charged. I hope there will be one day in this country that one agency or one government will decide that we want to look at how security votes have been spent. And then that's when you will see the mother of all sleaze. That is when we will realize why our security situation is in this strait. Because if you vote so much money to yourself monthly, I want to believe even if the police is not moving, if you spend this money on intelligence gathering, community policing styles, vigilantes and what have you, I believe, look at this neighborhood structure being used in Lagos. It is yielding results. They don't attack, they don't arrest thieves, they don't attack criminals. What they do is provide intelligence. We know so person is selling hemp. And then the necessary authorities goes there. We know so person, his movement is suspicious. And it is yielding results. And if all governors will push their security votes in that direction, maybe the situation will have been better. All right, we'll have to leave the conversation here for want of time. IfyOnyegbule, we must thank you for your time on the newspaper review this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Dare Odufowokan, thank you so much
It's
as well
pleasure.
for your time.